The sun beat down on the broken stone ruins as Jace wiped sweat from his brow. His boots crunched over sand and bones. The ruins were old, maybe older than anything humans had ever touched before. But it was not age that made him nervous. It was the statues, those tall, silent watchers with blank faces and missing eyes. He moved carefully through the shattered corridor, his eyes fixed on one statue in particular. It stood taller than the others, carved in the shape of a woman, her arms raised as if in warning. One eye socket glowed faintly, the other empty. Something about her face made his skin crawl. Yet he couldn't look away. Jace was not a treasure hunter by trade. He was a supply runner, a scrapper, a guy who fixed broken tech for colonies that no longer mattered. But this statue, this place, it called to him in a way nothing else had. It was desperation that brought him here, but something deeper kept him moving. His hand trembled as he reached up and plucked the blue gem from the statue's broken eye. It was no bigger than a marble, but it pulsed with soft, cold energy. As soon as it left the socket, the air shifted. The wind vanished. The ruin grew silent, like the world had forgotten how to breathe. Then he heard it, a whisper. Low, cold, hungry. It was not spoken through sound, but through something deeper. His mind felt like it cracked for a second, just enough to understand the message. It said one word, clear and ancient and terrifying. Hungry. He spun around, expecting to see a beast or machine. But it was a statue. It had moved. Its hands were now down by its sides. Its head tilted just enough to seem alive. The faint glow in the remaining eye flickered like fire behind glass. Jace backed away, heart pounding, the gem still in his hand. He didn't want it anymore. He didn't want anything in this place. He only wanted to run. But the ground beneath him shook, and dust rained down from the ceiling above. The statue stepped forward. It wasn't stone anymore. Flesh and metal replaced the texture. The alien woman's face twisted into something between beauty and horror. Her lips parted, and again the voice echoed in his mind. You took my sight. Give it back, or your kind will feed me forever. Jace could not speak. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The gem pulsed faster now, reacting to her presence. Her broken socket still wept glowing dust, as if the loss of her eye pained her. And yet, she didn't seem angry. She seemed starved. He slowly held the gem out to her, not as an offering, but as a way to stop whatever was coming. Her hand reached out, smooth and deadly. She paused before touching him. The air around her shimmered with energy, and Jace understood one thing clearly. He had not found treasure. He had awoken something ancient that should have been left in the dark. The gem felt heavier in his hand as the alien woman stepped closer. Her movements were slow, controlled, like she was learning how to move again after centuries of stillness. Jace didn't know whether to run or bow, but something in him refused to turn his back to her. She was not just alive. She was aware. The way her one eye followed him made his chest tighten. The broken socket still glowed faintly, leaking thin trails of light like veins of blue fire. She stopped just inches from him, close enough for him to hear her breath. You returned it, she said in a soft, cold tone that did not match her cracked face. Jace blinked, shocked by the words. Her lips barely moved, but the sound rang clearly in his ears. Her hand slowly reached for the gem, yet she did not snatch it away. I didn't mean to take it, he replied. I didn't know you were. He didn't finish the sentence. She didn't answer. Her fingers hovered above the orb, feeling its energy like one might test a flame. She stared at him as though searching for his soul. You woke me, she said. That makes you responsible. Her words were not angry, but they carried weight. He swallowed hard. The statues in the ruin were no longer just carvings. They were guardians. Or prisoners. Or maybe both. Jace glanced around. The other statues still stood still, but now they looked different. There was motion in their limbs, cracks in their stone flesh. A breathless tension filled the space, like everything waited on her next move. Who are you? Jace asked. What are you? The alien woman blinked slowly. Her remaining eye narrowed. She tilted her head to one side, and then placed her palm gently on his chest. He didn't flinch. Her touch was warm, surprisingly soft for something that looked so cold. I was a watcher, she whispered. We watched your kind rise. We watched your kind fall. We fed only when needed. until you sealed us in stone." The gem in his hand pulsed brighter now, as if reacting to her words. Her voice lowered even more. "And now," she continued, "you've broken the seal." Jace's breath caught in his throat. The statues weren't statues at all. They were creatures trapped in stone, forced into silence by something, maybe even by humans long ago. He had heard stories of ancient ruins where strange technologies had been hidden, tales of old wars between species that left behind sleeping weapons. But this was different. This was not a weapon. This was hunger given form. The alien woman opened her palm. A faint hum spread through the air. Without touching him, the gem floated from his hand and hovered above her open fingers. She closed her eyes as it drifted toward her empty socket. It slipped into place with a faint click. A blinding flash burst from her face, forcing Jace to shield his eyes. When he looked again, both eyes glowed bright and sharp. The cracks on her skin began to fade. Her armor shimmered with new light. Her voice echoed stronger now, no longer cold or quiet. "The others will wake soon. They will smell your kind, and they will remember." Jace took a step back, fear rising through him like fire. She turned her head slowly toward the other statues. A low rumble shook the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling again. One of the other statues moved. Its head turned toward him, eyes glowing faintly. Then another shifted, and another. Their forms began to lose their stone texture and become flesh. "What do you want from me?" Jace asked. His voice cracked. He didn't know whether to beg or fight. He didn't know if either would help. The alien woman looked back at him with both eyes shining like stars. "You must decide quickly," she said. Jace didn't move as the statues around him came alive. Their stone skin cracked open to reveal dark flesh beneath, pulsing with veins of light. They were waking up, not just one or two, but all of them. Dozens stood along the ruined hall, silent and breathing. The alien woman who had taken the gem back stepped in front of him. Her eyes no longer flickered. They burned. Her voice had changed too. It was stronger now, filled with a quiet command that made his body freeze even before she spoke. "You must leave this place," she said, "before they remember what your kind did." Jace shook his head slowly. "I didn't do anything. I wasn't even born then." She raised her hand and pointed toward the other waking beings. "They will not care," she replied. "To them, all humans are the same. Thieves, butchers, liars." Jace clenched his jaw. He didn't argue. He knew humans had done terrible things during the ancient wars. He just didn't expect to pay for their sins today. The closest statue stepped down from its pedestal with a sound like bones grinding against metal. Its face was more beast than human. Its mouth hung open, and a thick growl filled the room. Jace gripped the knife at his side, but he didn't draw it. "They were trapped for a reason," the alien woman said. "They were too dangerous, even for us." Her eyes never left the creature stepping forward. She stood like a shield between it and Jace. "But your theft has broken the seal. Now they're free again." The creature looked at Jace and sniffed the air. A low sound rolled from its throat, like hunger mixed with rage. Then it turned toward the woman and snarled. Jace expected her to run, but she didn't flinch. She stood still, her hand glowing with light. The gem in her eye pulsed once. A beam shot forward and hit the beast in the chest. It stumbled back, groaning, then froze. For a moment, its skin turned to stone again. Then it shattered into dust that scattered across the floor. Jace stared in shock. "You stopped it." She looked at him and nodded once. "Only because it was not fully awake. That will not work on the others." Her voice was flat now, tired. "And the more of them that rise, the more they will feed." "Feed on what?" Jace asked, already fearing the answer. She turned her head toward him slowly. "On life, on memory, on fear. They do not eat flesh. They eat the soul behind it, and they do not stop until the voice inside you is gone." Jace felt his stomach twist. He looked back at the hallway. More statues moved now. Some had already opened their eyes. A few were crouching low, stretching as if ready to leap. "Why don't they attack you?" he asked. "Because I was one of them," she said. "But I chose silence instead of hunger. I chose to forget what I was. The others never did." Jace couldn't believe what he was hearing. She wasn't a victim. She had once been like them. The floor trembled again. Cracks split open in the ceiling, and sunlight poured into the holes. But it was not warm. The light fell thin and cold. The ruins were no longer ruins. They were a cage coming undone. The alien woman turned to Jace. "If you wish to live, follow me. There is one last lock below the ground. If we reach it before them, I may still stop the full awakening." Jace hesitated for a second, then nodded. He followed her down a narrow path behind the statue's base. As the hallway swallowed him in shadow, he heard a scream rise behind him. Not from a mouth, but from a mind. The hunt had begun. The path beneath the ruins was narrow and full of dust. Jace had to crouch as he followed the alien woman through the crumbling tunnel. Stone fragments fell with every step, and the deeper they went, the colder the air became. She walked ahead without fear. Her glowing eye lit the way, casting soft blue light along the walls. Strange markings pulsed faintly where her light touched. Jace reached out and brushed one with his hand. It felt warm like skin. "These tunnels are not natural," he said quietly. "You built them?" She didn't stop walking. "No, they were carved by energy, not by hand. We were placed down here by force, not by choice. Everything that holds us was made by your kind." Jace didn't know what to say. He had grown up believing humans were the victims of history, not the villains. But every step he took made that belief harder to hold. He stared at her back as she moved, calm and silent. "Why did they trap you?" he asked after a while. "You said you chose silence, not hunger. Why trap the ones who refuse to feed?" She finally stopped walking and turned toward him. Her face looked older in the dim light. "Because we were still part of them," she answered. "We were feared. Feared enough to be sealed away with no trial, no voice, no chance. The hunger was our curse, but the silence was our sentence." They reached a large stone door, covered in lines of glowing runes. Her hand hovered over the surface, and the lines shifted at her touch. Jace watched as the stone began to open, revealing a chamber beyond. Inside, strange machines hung from the ceiling. They were not built with metal or wires. They were made from bone, crystal, and energy. Floating shapes turned slowly in the air, humming softly. Jace stepped in behind her, unsure what he was looking at. "This is the lock," she said. "It holds the final gate. If this breaks, the seal will fall, and nothing will stop them from rising fully." Jace walked closer, staring at the shapes. Some looked like eyes. Others looked like hands. "How do we stop it?" he asked. She raised her hand and pointed to a central structure, an orb locked in a ring of jagged stone. "It needs a voice. Not mine, not theirs. It needs a human voice. One that is not yet marked by hunger." Jace hesitated. "What do I say?" She shook her head. "You do not say anything. You give it your intent. You must mean what you want. If you lie, it will know. If you fear, it will know. And if you seek power, it will take from you instead." He looked at the orb. It hovered just above the pedestal, glowing dimly. He stepped forward, heart pounding, and placed his hand above it. The moment he did, his mind was filled with a low hum that grew louder by the second. His memories flashed before him. His mother's laugh, the cold of his first space flight, the day he lost his crew, the statue's eye, the hunger, the scream. He pushed all of it aside and focused only on one thing, peace. The orb flared with light. A wind blasted through the chamber, knocking him back. He landed hard, sliding across the floor. The orb spun wildly, then stopped, locked in place once more. The chamber fell silent again. She stepped toward him and offered her hand. He took it and stood, legs shaking. "You stopped the gate," she said. "But only for now. They are still awake. They will not rest again so easily." He nodded slowly. His heart still beat fast, but a small sense of hope bloomed inside him. Maybe he had done something right. Maybe there was a way to fix what had been broken. Then the chamber ceiling cracked. Dust rained down as a loud roar echoed from above. Something had followed them. The roar above them shook the walls. Stones fell from the ceiling, crashing to the ground with sharp cracks. Jace grabbed the side of the pedestal to steady himself, while the alien woman raised her hand toward the ceiling. "They found us," she said calmly. Her voice had no panic. Her face was still, but her glowing eyes narrowed slightly, scanning the falling dust as if she could see through it. Jace pulled his small blade from his belt. "What do we do?" he asked, heart pounding. "If the gate is locked again, why are they still coming?" She turned to him with a slow tilt of her head. "The seal is not complete. They are awake now, and hunger does not sleep." The ground split open beside them. From the crack rose a shadow covered in dust and smoke. Its face looked like a melted mask of many creatures. Its eyes burned red, and its long arms stretched out as it climbed from the floor. Jay stumbled back as the thing dropped into the chamber. It moved on all fours, sniffing the air. When it saw him, its mouth stretched open in a soundless scream. The woman stepped between them, raising both her hands. A burst of blue light exploded from her palms, hitting the beast square in the chest. It staggered but didn't fall. Its skin absorbed the energy like a sponge. It opened its jaw again, and this time the scream came. Jace fell to his knees, clutching his ears. The sound was not loud, but it went inside his bones. He could feel it pulling at his thoughts, scraping away memories like pages torn from a book. He forced himself to look up. The woman stepped forward and placed her hand on the beast's head. Her voice rose like a song, filled with strange words Jace didn't understand. The creature froze and trembled, then cracked into stone once more. She turned to him, her arms trembling slightly. That one was nearly fully awake. "The others will follow. We need to leave this place. You are marked now. They can find you even in light." Jay stood slowly, wiping the blood from his nose. His head spun, but he nodded. "Where do we go? Is there anywhere safe?" She walked toward the tunnel's far end and opened another sealed door with a wave of her hand. "There is a place where they were first made, a place even they fear. If we reach it, we might learn how to stop them, or how to end them forever." He followed her through the opening, stepping into a vast underground bridge suspended over a glowing chasm. Beneath the glass floor, energy flowed like a river of light. The air smelled of metal and dust. "What is this place?" he asked. She looked over her shoulder and said, "A forgotten forge, where the first ones were created, before they turned to hunger, before they were cursed by her kind." Jace couldn't tell if she blamed him or pitied him. He didn't care. All that mattered now was stopping whatever nightmare he had helped awaken. He gripped his blade tighter and followed her across the bridge. As they reached the far end, a new sound rose behind them. Footsteps. Dozens of them. Slow. Heavy. Measured. He turned and saw figures stepping onto the bridge from the shadows. All had glowing eyes. All were smiling. The woman raised her hand again, but this time no light came. She looked down at her fingers. "They've adapted," she said quietly. "They're learning. My light won't stop them again. Not like before." Jay stepped beside her. He didn't speak. He didn't run. He simply raised his blade and prepared to fight. The bridge began to dim beneath their feet. The glow beneath their feet faded with each step the creatures took. Jace gripped his blade tighter, feeling the surface below grow colder. The alien woman beside him raised both hands again, but the light she once commanded remained still. "They're draining it," she said. "They're drawing power from the forge itself. If they break the base, this whole bridge will fall." Jace took a deep breath and stepped slightly ahead of her. "Then we make sure they don't reach it." The first creature came into view, tall and thin with twisted limbs. Its skin looked like glass stretched over bone. Its eyes burned like fire, and its smile widened as it saw him. Jace ran forward without thinking. He slashed with his blade, cutting deep into the creature's side. It let out a screech that shook the walls. But it didn't fall. It turned and clawed at him, slicing his shoulder. He winced but didn't stop. He stabbed again, driving the blade through its chest. The creature's body cracked like stone. It fell backward and shattered. Behind it, more followed. Dozens. Their bodies were different, stronger, darker. The woman stood behind Jace, whispering words that made the air hum. Symbols began to glow under her feet. The runes etched in the glass bridge responded to her voice. But instead of turning blue, they glowed red. Her eyes widened. They reversed the path. "They're using my own power against me." Jace turned to her, panting. "What do we do?" She didn't answer right away. She stepped back, watching the runes shift. I need to reach the control chamber at the end of this bridge. If I overload it, the energy will collapse and take them with it. That'll destroy the bridge, Jay said, and everything on it. She nodded once. Yes, including us. But if we don't stop them now, they'll spread beyond these ruins. The surface won't be enough to contain their hunger. Jay stared at the creatures marching toward them. He could see no end to them. They filled the bridge, snarling, crawling, reaching. His grip on the blade tightened as he stood beside her. Then we buy you time. You run. I hold the line. No, she said sharply. You're the only one who made the seal respond. You carry something I don't. I hold them. You run. He looked at her, shocked. Why would you do that? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because I remember what it was like before the hunger. And I believe you still carry what we lost. She placed her hand on his chest briefly. Then she turned and sprinted toward the control chamber. Jay stood alone as the first wave reached him. He swung hard, striking a creature in the neck. It dropped, but more came. He ducked, rolled, stabbed. Pain raced through his side, but he didn't fall. Behind him, the forge's hum grew louder. The woman reached the console and placed both hands on it. Her body began to glow. The machines responded with sharp, angry flashes. The air vibrated with power. Jace was bleeding now. His arms were numb. But he didn't stop fighting. Not when a creature bit into his leg. Not when another scratched his face. He kept moving. Kept cutting. Kept standing. Then he felt it. A sudden pull from beneath the bridge. Energy surged up from the forge. The creature's paused, confused. The red glow turned white. The woman screamed, not in pain, but in force. Her body became light. The bridge cracked open with a sound like thunder. The runes shattered. The control console exploded in a burst of pure energy. Jace felt the world flip around him as light swallowed everything. Then everything went silent. Jace opened his eyes to darkness. He was lying flat on a cold surface, his ears ringing. The floor beneath him no longer pulsed with light. The energy was gone, and so was the hum. The bridge was broken. He groaned and sat up slowly. Pain burned through his leg and shoulder, but nothing felt broken. Dust hung in the air like fog. There was no sign of the creatures. No glowing eyes. No snarls. No movement at all. "Hello," he called out. His voice echoed through the silence. There was no answer. He stood with effort, leaning against a jagged stone wall. The path behind him had collapsed completely. Only one tunnel led forward. He limped down the corridor, one hand on the wall to balance himself. Every step sent pain shooting up his side, but he kept moving. He had to know if she survived. He had to find her, the one who stayed to save him. As he moved deeper, faint lights began to glow along the walls. Not red, not blue, soft white pulses like stars in the stone. The silence began to shift into a hum again, but this time it was gentle, like breathing. He reached a vast chamber filled with crystal spires. They rose from the floor like frozen lightning, humming with energy. And at the center, floating above a circular platform, was her. The alien woman hovered motionless, her body glowing faintly. Her arms were stretched out and her eyes were closed. The gem that had once been her eye now pulsed brighter than ever. She looked like a star caught in stillness. Jay stepped closer, unsure if she was alive. As he reached the edge of the platform, her eyes snapped open. The glow faded slightly, and her body lowered gently to the floor. She stood on her feet, blinking slowly. "You survived," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was something new in it, something lighter. Jace nodded slowly. "So did you. How?" She looked around at the spires and placed her hand on one. "The forge absorbed me," she replied. "It used me to repair the damage. I became part of Seal. But when you called out, it released me. It listened to you again." Jace looked around the chamber. "Are they gone?" he asked. She paused before answering. "The ones on the bridge are gone. Their forms were broken. Their hunger stopped. But others remain in deeper chambers. Still sleeping. Still waiting." He walked toward her and stood beside the central platform. "Then we keep going," he said. "We find every lock, every gate, and we seal them again. or destroy them for good. She turned her head toward him slowly. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "You've already risked everything. You owe nothing to what we were." Jace looked her in the eyes, his voice steady. "Because someone has to, and I'm already marked." She smiled for the first time. It was small, strange, and almost sad, but it was real. "Then we walk together," she said, "until the last hunger sleeps." Jace helped her down from platform. The crystals dimmed behind them as they walked toward the far end of the chamber. A new path had opened, lined with soft white lights and faint symbols glowing beneath their feet. Each step they took felt lighter, not just in body, but in spirit. He didn't know how far they had to go. He didn't know what they would face. But for the first time since this began, he believed they could end it. Far behind them, one crystal flickered. Then another. The new corridor led into a chamber unlike any they had seen. The walls were covered in symbols that pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. The air felt charged, alive with something ancient. At the center stood a massive circular gate, sealed with glowing chains. Jace paused at the threshold. His breath caught as he stared at the gate. It wasn't just a door. It was a prison. The hunger behind it pulsed through the stone, whispering at the edges of his mind. It wanted out. It wanted him. The alien woman walked forward with purpose. Her eyes glowed brighter now, steadier. She reached the chains and touched one gently. A sharp pulse of energy ran through the air, and the symbols around them flared in warning. "This is the core," she said. "The first gate. The source of the hunger. If we seal this one, the others will lose their strength. But it will take everything we have." Jace nodded. "Tell me what to do." She stepped back and pointed to 3 raised platforms surrounding the gate. "You must stand in one. I will take the second. The third will be activated by the forge itself. But we must act together." He climbed onto the nearest platform. The surface lit up beneath his feet. The stone responded to his presence. His chest grew warm, like the energy was flowing into him. He watched her take her place across from him. As soon as all 3 points lit up, the room began to shake. The gate pulsed violently. From within the cracks, shadows screamed silently. Wisps of darkness pressed against the inside of the barrier, desperate to break free. Jace felt the force pulling at him. His thoughts blurred. Memories flickered in and out. He clenched his fists and focused on one thing: resistance. He would not be taken. He would not feed them. He poured that will into the platform beneath him. Across from him, the woman's body glowed bright as fire. Her voice rose into a chant, speaking words older than any language he had heard. Her light reached toward the center of the gate and wrapped around the chains. The third platform lit on its own. A beam of white light shot from it and joined theirs. All 3 energies collided at the gate's core. The chains tightened. The gate screamed, and the hunger inside fought harder. Jace fell to one knee, blood dripping from his nose. He didn't stop. He screamed back into the void, his soul refusing to bend. The gate shuddered. The shadows twisted. And then, with a deafening crack, the chain snapped into place. The light exploded outward, knocking them both off their platforms. The room shook violently, then fell still. The gate no longer pulsed. The symbols dimmed. The hunger was gone. Jace groaned and pushed himself up. The alien woman lay a few feet away, breathing hard but alive. He crawled to her and helped her sit up. Her face was pale, but her eyes still glowed. "It's done," she whispered. Jace looked around the chamber. The silence was real now. No voices, no pressure, just stillness, just peace. "We stopped it," he said. She nodded slowly, tears gathering in her eyes. "You ended what we could not," she said. "You gave us silence. Not as punishment, but as peace." Jace leaned back against the stone and closed his eyes. For the first time since he entered the ruins, he felt weightless. They sat there together, 2 survivors in the heart of what once was a prison. The forge hummed softly beneath them, no longer hungry, no longer afraid, just quiet and whole. Outside the ruins, the wind began to blow again, and the world, unaware of what had been saved, carried on.